Hey y'all, it's Niels, and welcome back to Penny for Your Thoughts. This is a space where we slow life down long enough to hear what truth actually sounds like, where reflection meets reality, where growth isn't rushed, softened, or explained away. If you're here today, it's because something in you refuses to settle. You didn't come for noise, you came for clarity. So let's get into it. Can I ask you a question? No, seriously. I don't want you to answer it out loud. I want you to actually think about it. When was the last time you were genuinely, completely, undeniably happy? Not distracted, not entertained, not laughing because someone told a funny joke. I'm talking about the kind of happiness that makes you sit back and think life is really good. Take a second and think about it. Now, here's another question. How long did it last? An hour? A day? Maybe a week? Maybe a vacation? Maybe Christmas morning? Maybe the birth of your child? Maybe graduation? Maybe getting married? Maybe buying your first home? Maybe landing your dream job? Maybe hearing the doctors say everything looks good? Maybe it was the day you finally paid off that debt, or the day someone finally said, I love you. Whatever moment came to your mind, I want you to notice something. It didn't stay. It couldn't. Because happiness, by its very nature, moves. It, it goes. It visits, then it leaves. And yet, we've somehow built an entire culture around chasing something that was never meant to stay forever. Think about that. From the time we are children, people ask us, what do you want to be when you grow up? But what they're really asking is, what career do you think will make you happy? And then we're told, find someone who makes you happy. Buy things that make you happy. Move somewhere that makes you happy. Take vacations that make you happy. Eat what makes you happy. Do what makes you happy. Protect your happiness. Fight for your happiness. Choose happiness. Live, laugh, love. Smile more. Positive vibes only. Good energy only. No negativity. No toxic people. No stress. No discomfort. No conflict. It's almost like we've become allergic to anything that doesn't feel good. And honestly, I understand why. Pain hurts. Rejection hurts. Loneliness hurts. Failure hurts. Grief hurts. Nobody wakes up praying, God, let today absolutely destroy me. None of us wants suffering. None of us enjoys disappointment. We're human. Of course, we'd rather smile than cry. I myself would choose peace over chaos every single time. But here's where I think we've accidentally fooled ourselves. Somewhere along the way, we stopped treating happiness like a beautiful emotion, and we started treating it like the purpose of life. Those are two completely different things. And I don't know who needs to hear this, but feelings make terrible leaders. They really do. Think about every bad decision you've ever made. Most of them probably started with the feeling. I felt lonely. I felt angry. I felt ignored, impatient. I felt like I deserved it. Felt like giving up. Feelings aren't bad. They're just temporary. And they change faster than the weather. You could wake up feeling unstoppable. And then one text message changes your mood. One phone call, one bill, one doctor's appointment, one argument, one unexpected loss. Suddenly, everything feels different. Nothing around you changed overnight, but your feelings did. And that's why building your life on happiness is like building a house on sand. It shifts constantly. The older I get, the more I realize something. The happiest moments of my life weren't actually the moments that changed me. Think about your own life. Was it your easiest season or your hardest one that taught you who you really are? And we'll stop right there. because I want that question to sit with you, not just in your head, but in your heart. Let's keep digging, because I think we've confused happiness with something much deeper. And once you understand the difference, you may never chase life the same way again. So, where did we get this idea? I'm serious. Where did it come from? Who convinced us that happiness was the highest achievement a human being could reach? Was it something you discovered for yourself, or was it something you inherited? Because if I'm being honest, most of the beliefs we carry around every day aren't actually ours. They are borrowed from our parents, borrowed from society, borrowed from the people we admired, borrowed from people who may have been just as lost as we are. Have you ever stopped to think about that? How much of your life is built on ideas you never questioned? Here's another question. If everyone around you told you the sky was green and nobody ever challenged it, would you believe them? Probably. Not because you're unintelligent, but because repetition has a funny way of sounding like truth. The more often we hear something, the less likely we are to question it. Maybe that's exactly what's happened with happiness. We've heard it so many times that we've stopped asking whether it's actually true. Think about the messages you've heard your whole life. Just do whatever makes you happy. It sounds good. You deserve to be happy. Of course. Follow your heart. Seems harmless. But here's my question. What happens when your heart changes its mind? Because your heart changes. Your emotions, they change. Your desires change. So why would we build our entire lives in something that's constantly moving? It's like trying to build a house on waves. No matter how beautiful it looks, eventually it's going to shift. And maybe that's why so many people feel disappointed, not because they failed, but because they reached the destination that they were chasing. And then they realized it wasn't the finish line after all. The goalpost keeps moving. Have you ever wanted something so badly that you were convinced, if I could just have this one thing, everything would be different? And then you got it. For a little while, it felt incredible. And then life happened. The excitement faded, and somehow you found yourself chasing the next thing. Why is that? Why do we keep believing the next achievement will finally satisfy us? Could it be that we've confused excitement with fulfillment? Excitement is loud, fulfillment is quiet. Excitement shows up all at once, fulfillment grows over time. Excitement says, look what I have. And then fulfillment asks, look who I'm becoming. That's a completely different conversation. And then there's social media. Let me ask you something. Have you ever been having a perfectly good day until you opened your phone? Nothing in your life changed. Your family didn't change. Your bank account didn't change. Your future didn't change. The only thing that changed was what you started comparing yourself to. Isn't that fascinating? One scroll, and suddenly your life feels smaller. Why? Because comparison has a way of making abundance feel like scarcity. Instead of appreciating what you have, you start noticing what you don't. And here's the dangerous part. You're comparing your everyday life to someone's carefully edited highlights. Not their fears, not their failures, not the moments they cried when nobody was watching. Just the moments they wanted the world to see. And we all do it. But let me ask you this. How often have you envied a life you didn't actually know? Now let's go even deeper. What if happiness isn't the problem? What if our definition of happiness is, because maybe happiness was never meant to be a destination. Maybe it was always supposed to be a companion, something you experience along the journey, not something you spend your entire life chasing. Think about that for a second. If happiness is the destination, what happens when life gets hard? Does your life suddenly lose its meaning? Or is there something deeper, something stronger that can carry you through seasons when happiness is nowhere to be found? Because I think there is. And I think every single one of us has experienced it, even if we didn't have a name for it. So let me leave you with one more question before we move on. What if the greatest moments of your life weren't the happiest ones, but the ones that changed you the most? Sit with that, because in the next part, we're going to talk about pain. Not because pain is good, but because it might be the greatest teacher most of us spend our entire lives trying to avoid. Can I ask you something that might make you uncomfortable? If you could erase every painful experience you've ever had, would you? Take your time. Don't answer too fast. Because your first instinct is probably, absolutely, no more heartbreak, no more rejection, no more grief, no more disappointment. Who wouldn't want that? But let me ask you a different question. If you erased every painful moment, would you still be the person you are today? Think about it. Who taught you your greatest lessons? Success or failure? Who revealed your real friends? The people who stayed or the people who walked away? Who taught you resilience? The easy seasons or the ones that damn near broke you? It's strange, isn't it? The moments we'd never choose are often the moments we'd never trade. Not because they felt good, but because they changed us. I've noticed something about life. Comfort introduces you to who you are. Pressure reveals who you are. Anybody can smile when life is going their way. Anybody can be kind when nothing is being tested. And anybody can have faith when every prayer seems to get answered. But what happens when life says no? What happens when you've done everything right and things still fall apart? Who are you then? That's the person you are becoming. Maybe character isn't built during the victory lap. Maybe it's built in the climb. We spend so much of our lives asking God to remove obstacles. God, make it easier. God, fix it. God, take this away. And sometimes He does. And then sometimes He doesn't. Why? Have you ever considered that possibility? Not because He doesn't love us, but because there's something on the other side of that struggle that comfort could never produce. Think about learning to walk. No parent celebrates the first time their child falls, but they also don't stop the child from trying again. Because falling isn't the opposite of learning, it's part of learning. Now imagine if every time that child stumbled, someone picked them up and carried them. They'd never develop the strength to stand on their own. Could it be that we've mistaken protection for preparation? Could it be that some of the challenges we're trying to escape are actually preparing us for the life we're praying for? That's a difficult thought, especially when you're in the middle of the storm. I'm not saying every painful thing happens for a reason we can immediately understand. Some losses are heartbreaking. Some tragedies don't have neat explanations. Some wounds leave scars that never completely disappear. I don't want to pretend otherwise, but I do believe this. Pain asks a question that comfort never does. Pain asks, who am I when everything familiar is gone? Pain asks, what actually matters to me? Pain asks, what am I holding on to that I need to let go of? Those are hard questions, but they can lead to honest answers. And honest answers have a way of changing lives. So here's another thought. Maybe the opposite of happiness isn't sadness. Maybe the opposite of happiness is numbness. Because sadness still means you care. Grief still means you loved. Disappointment still means you hoped. Those emotions remind us we're alive. The danger isn't feeling pain. The danger is becoming so afraid of pain that we stop fully living. Maybe that's why courage isn't the absence of fear, it's choosing to move anyway. And maybe growth isn't the absence of struggle, it's refusing to let struggle have the final word. So let me leave you with another question. If your greatest struggle has also been your greatest teacher, why are we so quick to wish every struggle away? So, if happiness isn't the destination, then what is? It's a fair question because it's one thing to tell someone what not to chase. It's another thing entirely to help them discover what might actually be worth pursuing. I don't have all the answers. In fact, one of the things I've learned is to be suspicious of anyone who claims they do. But I do have questions. And sometimes the right question is more valuable than the quickest answer. Here's one I've been sitting with lately. What kind of person are you becoming while you're busy building the life you want? Not what kind of car are you driving, not how much money is in your account, damn, not how many followers do you have. Who are you? Because one day you will arrive wherever you are trying to go. You will get the promotion. You will build the business. You will reach the goal. You will check the box. And then you'll be left with the one person you can never escape, yourself. So maybe success isn't just about what you achieve. Maybe it's about who you become while achieving it. Let me ask you this. Have you ever met someone who had everything and somehow they still seemed empty? And you've probably also met someone who didn't have much but carried a peace that couldn't be explained. Why is that? I've thought about that for a very long time, and I don't think peace and happiness are the same thing. Happiness depends on what happens. Peace depends on what you're rooted in. There's a difference. Imagine a tree. When the wind starts blowing, what determines whether the tree survives? Its leaves? No. Its branches? No. Its roots? The part nobody sees? That's the part doing the real work. And maybe people are the same way. We spend so much time decorating our leaves, our appearance, our accomplishment, our image, but how much time do we spend strengthening our roots? Because storms don't ask for permission. They don't check your calendar. They don't care how successful you've become. Eventually, every one of us will face something that shakes us. It's just life. A loss, disappointment, betrayal, a season that doesn't make sense. And when that happens, your roots matter more than your resume. So let me ask you something. What are your roots? What are you building your life on? Approval? Money? Relationships? Status? Because here's the thing, none of these are bad. Money isn't evil. Recognition isn't evil. Wanting a healthy relationship is not evil. The question isn't whether those things have value. The question is, can they hold the weight of your identity? That's different. If your identity is built on your career, what happens when you lose your job? If it's built on your appearance, what happens when age begins to change your reflection? If it's built on another person, what happens when they leave? Anything that can be taken away probably shouldn't be the foundation of who you are. Maybe that's why purpose matters. Purpose gives direction. Not every day feels exciting. Not every morning feels inspiring. Not every season feels rewarding. But purpose keeps moving even when feelings don't. Think about a marathon runner. Do you think they wake up every morning excited to train? Probably not. Some days they do, and then some days they don't. But they lace up their shoes anyway. Why? Because discipline can carry you where motivation can't. And purpose can carry you where happiness won't. Now, let me ask you something personal. If someone followed you around for the next 30 days, not listening to what you said, just watching how you spent your time, what would they say your purpose is? Would they say you're chasing growth or comfort? Would they say you're building relationships or building distractions? Would they say you're investing in your future or escaping your present? That's a hard question, but I think it's an honest one. Here's another. When people tell your story years from now, what do you hope they remember? That you were always happy or that you made a difference? Because those aren't always the same thing. Some of the people who've changed history endured incredible hardship, not because they enjoyed suffering, but because they believed something was more important than their own comfort. That idea challenges me because if I'm being honest, there are days I still choose comfort, days I avoid difficult conversation, days I procrastinate, and days I want the easy way out. I'm still learning. Maybe that's what this journey is. Not becoming perfect, becoming more intentional. So here's the question I want to leave hanging in the air before we move to our flip of the coin. If happiness is a visitor and purpose is a compass, which one have you been letting lead your life? Because depending on your answer, you may realize you've been chasing the weather and you should have been following the stars. You know what time it is. It's time to flip the coin because every perspective has another side. Every truth deserves to be examined. Oops. And every belief is worth questioning. Damn, where'd it go? So, let's flip it. Heads. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe happiness should be the goal. After all, what's wrong with wanting a joyful life? What's wrong with wanting to laugh, to smile, to make memories with the people you love? Absolutely nothing. In fact, I hope you experience all of those things. I hope you laugh until your stomach hurts. I hope you find people who make ordinary moments feel unforgettable. I hope you wake up some mornings with absolutely no reason to smile. And smile anyway. Joy is a gift. Celebrate birthdays. Celebrate anniversaries. Celebrate the little victories nobody else notices. Because life moves fast, too fast. And if we're always waiting for the next milestone, we might miss the beauty. It's already here. Maybe happiness isn't overrated. Maybe we've just forgotten to notice it. Maybe happiness isn't found in the extraordinary. Maybe it's hiding inside the ordinary. A conversation with your mom, a quiet cup of coffee before the house wakes up, hearing your favorite song at exactly the right moment, watching your child laugh at something that isn't even funny. Those moments matter. Don't rush past them chasing bigger ones. But now, tails. What if happiness isn't enough? What if a life built only on feeling good falls apart the moment life stops feeling good? Because eventually, there will be days when joy is hard to find, days when your prayers feel unanswered, days when your heart feels heavy, days when simply getting out of bed feels like an accomplishment. If happiness is your only compass, where do you go on those days? What keeps you moving? What reminds you why you're still here? Maybe that's where purpose steps in. Maybe purpose whispers, keep going, even when happiness is silent. And maybe faith says, trust me, even when your circumstances say otherwise. Maybe love says, give anyway, even when your own heart feels empty. That's why I don't think this is an either or conversation. I don't think it's happiness or purpose. I think happiness is a beautiful fruit, but purpose is the root. The fruit is wonderful, but without healthy roots, it won't last. So maybe the better question isn't should I chase happiness? Maybe it's what kind of life naturally produces happiness. Because there's a difference. You can spend your whole life chasing butterflies, or you can build a garden. And here's the beautiful part: when you build the right garden, the butterflies show up on their own. Think about that. Maybe we've been running after the butterflies when we should have been tending the garden. Now, that's a thought worth sitting with. So, we've asked a lot of questions today. Is happiness overrated? Can pain teach us more than comfort? Is purpose stronger than emotion? What are we really building our lives around? I don't expect you to leave this episode with every answer. In fact, I hope you don't. Because if this conversation did its job, you'll leave with better questions. And sometimes better questions lead to better lives. Before we go, I want to leave you with this story. I honestly don't know who originally said it. Maybe nobody did. Maybe it's just one of those ideas that finds you when you need it. Imagine two people. Both of them wake up with the same goal. They want to catch butterflies. The first person spends the entire day chasing them. Every time a butterfly lands, they run toward it. The butterfly flies away. So they chase another, then another. By the end of the day, they're exhausted, frustrated, covered in sweat, and they haven't caught a single butterfly. Now imagine the second person. They never chase a butterfly. Instead, they spend their time planting flowers. They pull weed, they water the soil, they protect the garden day after day. They care for something they can't immediately see growing. For a while, nothing happens. No butterfly, no applause, no reward, just quiet, consistent work. Then one morning, they walk outside, and there they are, butterflies. Not because they chased them, but because they built the kind of place butterflies wanted to be. I wonder how many of us have spent our lives chasing butterflies, chasing happiness, chasing approval, chasing success, chasing validation, always running, always reaching, always believing. The next thing will finally make me feel complete. But what if we've been running in the wrong direction? What if the better question isn't, how do I become happier? What if it's, what kind of life am I building? Because maybe happiness isn't something you hunt. Maybe it's something that visits a well tended life. Maybe it shows up when your values and your actions begin to match. Maybe it grows in gratitude. Maybe it grows in meaningful work. Maybe it grows in forgiveness. Maybe it grows in faith. Not because life suddenly becomes easy, but because you've become rooted. And here's something I've been thinking about. We live in a world that celebrates outcomes: the promotion, the championship, the wedding, the viral video, the $1 million business. But real life is mostly made up of ordinary Tuesdays, quiet mornings, difficult conversations, small decisions that nobody claps for. That's where character is built, not under the spotlight, but in the moments when nobody's watching. And maybe that's why we overlook them. They're not exciting, they're not glamorous, but they're shaping us. Every decision you make is casting a vote for the person that you are becoming. Think about that. Every time you choose honesty over convenience, you are becoming someone. Every time you keep your word, you're becoming someone. Every time you forgive when it's difficult, you are becoming someone. Every time you choose growth over comfort, you're becoming someone. The question isn't whether you are changing, you are. The question is, who are you changing into? So before we end today, I want to leave you with one final question. Not for today, and not for this drive, not just for this episode, but for your life. If happiness came and went, if success came and went, if recognition came and went, who would still be standing? Would you still know who you are? Would your life still have meaning? Would your purpose still be intact? Because if the answer is yes, I think you are building on something solid. If the answer is no, don't panic. Maybe this isn't the end of your journey. Maybe it's the beginning of a better one. Maybe this episode wasn't meant to give you certainty. Maybe it was meant to give you permission to question the things you've always accepted. Permission to redefine what success means. Permission to stop chasing a feeling and start building a life. So I'll leave you with this. The next time someone asks you, what do you want out of life? Don't be afraid if your answer isn't, I just want to be happy. Maybe your answer becomes, I want to become someone I'm proud of. Because happiness will visit, pain will visit, success will visit, failure will visit, but character is what remains after they all leave. Thank you for spending this time with me. More importantly, thank you for spending this time with yourself, because that's what this show is really about. Not changing your mind, helping you explore it. Till next time, keep asking better questions. Keep challenging old assumptions. Keep collecting the pennies life gives you every single day. Because one day, you might look back and realize those little thoughts changed your whole life. This has been Penny for Your Thoughts, and that's my 2 cents. Peace.